Julia Hobsbawm is an award-winning writer, broadcaster, podcaster, keynote speaker, and consultant about the past, present, and future of work. And she is the author of Working Assumptions, What We Thought We Knew About Work Before COVID and Generative AI, and What We Know Now. And also, as you see behind her, the author of The Nowhere Office. Julia, it's great to have you here. You'll be with us in person as a keynote speaker at our UWEBC Annual Conference on October 1st. So thanks for carving out a little time here today to talk about all things work related.
John, pleasure to be with you. Thank you for having me. And yes, I'm delighted that I'm going to be flying over from the UK to join you in Madison, Wisconsin. And I do think the network that Doug Barton has put together is exceptional. And I think you're doing some pioneering stuff around the future of work.
Thank you. And believe me, Madison is lovely on October 1st. We promise. I heard a recent podcast with you, and you had this quote. You said, "This is the most interesting moment in work in 100 years." So, what did you mean by that?
I know we're in the age of hyperbole, but I genuinely believe, and I think the data supports my assertion, that we are experiencing the biggest shifts in the workplace across all the functions since really automation ushering in the era that we've enjoyed up until now, mass communications. I'm really interested not just in the disruption and how we handle the disruption, but also how America pivots and adjusts what it has been doing around work. Workers of different generations want work-life balance more openly than they've ever done before. And how do you balance the need to have work-life balance with productivity, with growth, and the challenges of the new automation, which is artificial intelligence and so on. So it's a totally fascinating time.
It really is. And I think as someone who's 63 and started working in the 1980s, I'm not so sure that I'm opposed to the changes that have happened because I think we've gotten a better work-life balance. So how do we balance the difference between the generations right now?
The generational shifts are key. And I write in my latest book, Working Assumptions, about what I call the amazing age, the age in which the technology itself is mind-boggling, but in which the three generations of alphas, millennials, and Z, the amazing generation, all of whom have really different experiences of work and attitudes to work compared to us, the boomers and Generation X, who are still in the workplace. The truth is that it's not just attitudes that are changing. And there's a big difference between attitudes of Gen Z versus millennials. But you've also got cognitive challenges of workers of an older generation not being able to keep up with the speed and pace of the digital changes. And for 100 years, you've had global norms. That's the way we do things. That's the way we do work. And it's changing because it's now workplace by workplace, sector by sector, generation by generation. I think these changes are exciting, necessary, but demanding. And this amazing age is all about navigating and negotiating turbulence and disruption calmly.
What do you say to the managers, the C-suite who are like, I want my people here in person a certain number of days a week, but then they may be losing talent from the other end of the younger people that are like, I'm going to go for this job that lets me work from my kitchen all day.
The data definitely shows that many parts of the world is going hybrid remote on the Flex Index, which is a really interesting source of data. And that does present challenges and opportunities because what is really clear is there is a generational disconnect between managers and leaders who expect and believe that presenteeism is a marker of productivity. I don't believe it is necessarily. That's not to say you don't want norms. It is about fostering innovation, experimentation, and navigating the turbulence in the air pockets. What we need is a mindset shift to understand what the weather of work is and how to operate in it. And that's what I'm passionate about.
Speaking about hybrid, there are obviously cases where it won't work. However, I personally experimented early on with a hybrid office place and ended up working for 15 years in the early 90s. I worked at a TV station in Seattle. And for family reasons, I needed to come home. I went out half the month there, shot stories, came back half the month here to Wisconsin from Seattle and wrote those stories. And I was probably one of the most productive members of the team. The idea that people who are working at home aren't working is stuck in some people's minds, but it's a bit of a fallacy, right?
It is a bit of a fallacy, although I'm not in favor of any one size fits all, whether that's the 4-day week or whether that's saying that all classes of a particular work can be done remotely and all classes of a particular work can't. It matters workplace by workplace. I've written a lot about what I call the hybrid haves and have-nots. You do build up resentments in workplaces and amongst customers and consumers if presenteeism, whether that's virtual and digital or in the room, is compromised to the detriment of that service. It's all to me about the work. I'm really pro work, what work means to us as individuals. Humans need to work and machines cannot work without humans. We should be fighting for a world with work and with humans, but making the best of the changes. One of those changes is using technology to help us relocate or work in more flexible ways. Of course, we want to move with the times, but sometimes we focus on the wrong things. And for me, the focus has got to be staying human in a machine age. But I don't actually believe that work should change that much. We want to keep humans going, and we need work and meaning, but we need to work in balance.
Brilliantly said. I think, yes. And my boss had the foresight at the time, getting back to my personal situation, to say, let's see how it goes. And I was productive and I performed. So he allowed me to keep doing this hybrid experience. But I will say, as you point out, it's not to say there weren't some people, and there aren't some people now who do resent the fact that I can't do this. How come they get to do it? And that's a human nature thing. The same could be said about the 4-day week. What are the pros and cons about that?
My jury is a little out on the 4-day week. I'm certainly open-minded. We know from looking after our physical health and indeed our mental health that there are some basic principles, but that they need to be customized and personalized. So the basic principle that you need time to rest and recuperate and connect with your family is right. But my concern is that in an era of flexibility, it's quite rigid to say, that's it, let's all have a 4-day week. And it's certainly not affordable in a blanket way. So there are lots of downsides. The upside is it is very important to try and find a way. And to some degree, the 4-day week is an easy, clean way to do that. And in some sectors, it makes sense. But again, the big shift of the last century, I think, is moving from the uniform standard to something completely different. Flexible hybrid living, intergenerational diplomacy, and learning and skilling appropriately in different places, not just in offices, not just in your home, but in your coffee shop or the multiverse or the metaverse. It's all changing. And again, it all hinges, to my mind, on flexibility and adaptability. So the rigidity of the 4-day week could end up being its Achilles heel, but my jury is out.
Just one more question before we wrap things up. I heard you say in a recent conversation, I hope that 2025 will see a much different C-suite. So you are the soothsayer when it comes to work culture. What do you mean by that quote?
I really feel we need to give proper voice focused on improving the work, not improving people's own individual status or identity or culture wars within workplaces. That to me should take a back seat compared to boards and C-suites and leaders and managers and teams that say, what does success look like for the work we're doing? And how are we going to get there? And let's co-design and innovate. And if the board can reflect that energy and mission and bravery, it's all going to be good.
I think we're hearing here why we are going to want to hear Julia in person after this preview today at the UWEBC Annual Conference, October 1st. Go online to the UWEBC website to register. Julia, it was so great talking to you. Your outlook on things and your take on things is just fascinating. And I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. And I want you to promise me when you're here October 1st, you will try the deep fried cheese curds. It's a Wisconsin specialty.
I'm there. I'm really looking forward to coming and to meeting as many of you as possible. And thank you so much for inviting me and for having this chat.